Welcome to the Vigor Life Podcast, a source of inspiration, lessons, stories, skill sets, mindsets, and strategies to invigorate and expand all areas of your life. Let's go. What's going on, Coach Luka, back here with the Vigor Life Podcast. And today is going to be a little bit of a, I would say, educational, organized educational content. So the last couple, I would say, of episodes that you guys have seen, from Joe DeFranco to Joel Jameson, a lot of incredible feedback. We got some great, I would say, guests coming on as well in the coming weeks and months. And also Marcus Harden on the last one. And actually, this piggybacks a little bit on this. Like, we brought him, Marcus, who's doing incredible work in the field of progressive schools, mentoring, coaching kids. And I hope you guys got a lot out of that. I actually would love some feedback from that. But this is going to piggyback on it. And as far as not only, something that's been really inspiring to me, from, if you guys haven't heard of the charity called Charity Water, which is phenomenal. Scott Harrison is the guy that started that. He actually has a book called Thirst, which I strongly recommend that you guys read. Not just from, like I said, it's very inspirational, and I'm going to go over some of the thought processes behind his thinking as well. And I wanted to share 11 different models for an evolved enterprise. And this is, some of the stuff we were touching on as far as, where I'm going with Vigor Dream, our scholarship foundation that, has been a little bit pushed back a little bit, but we're going to launch in September, full throttle, and already kind of raising money before then and things like that. I wanted to kind of give you my insights on what I think, that the business, a business should be profitable. Of course, you build a business to serve and for it to be profitable. But I feel like if business is not involved in somehow improving social, or has a social focus as well, like that, long term, I don't know. First of all, I think that the purpose and meaning behind it just isn't as powerful. And also, so many people talk about making an impact, and I feel like there's nothing more powerful than using your skill sets and your mastery, right, and with your art to help others, not just through, like I said, the profit model, but also through the giving back model. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to share 11 different models that you can do, and the route that we're going. Before I go into that, though, just know, I wanted to bring up, the Vigor Ground Fitness and Business Summit is about 3 months away right now. And straight up, we are currently, legit days away from the super early bird shutting down. Ticket sales have been insane. I don't want to make this one of those, where people are always promoting, we're out of tickets. On a serious note, we're literally almost 50% of tickets sold, and we're 3 months out from the event. So this event not only will sell out, get your hands on the early bird. It's the greatest deal, $397, 3 full days. So you get the hands-on at Vigor, and you get the 2 business days at the Inner Urban. This is gonna be an experience. Like I said, the presenters are top notch. It really is going to be fire. So hop over to www.vigorgroundsummit.com/home and take advantage of that, because like I said, that is going to be gone. And then, don't tell me oh man, I'm going to say, I told you so. I told you so. So now with that said, okay, look, let's move into this whole idea of, first of all, why something like this would matter, right? And I've been through life where I've shared this before, where chasing significance, making money, status, making, feeling like, hey, I'm known, or whatever else it is that we chase, because we think that, if we get there, that things will be better in life. Or, and while, making money, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It can help you. Actually, now I do it even more so to do things like what I'm going to talk about today, giving back. But why are these things important? Well, first of all, look, throughout our lives, we often use things as benchmarkers, right? But before we gather them, and I say this now, because for any, maybe you've been through this, maybe you haven't, maybe you're, I want to prevent you from going through what I went through. But before we gather them, it's important to realize that there's limitations for acquiring true happiness, especially through things. And unfortunately, it's still what, a lot of people do today. It's like, if I get this thing, I will be happier. If I get this thing, I'll be more important, and it'll fill the void in my heart. Right. So, no matter what. So the thing is too, that because I talked to a lot of nonprofits, I talked to a lot of, should I say, not just talk to, I work with a lot of them because I'm involved heavily with a lot of charity work. So, no matter what your entrepreneur journey is, you got to learn effective marketing. This is what's going to go so hand in hand. I think you guys are going to like where I'm going with this and what I'm going to talk about. But there's no harder marketing problem than the puzzle of charitable donations, right? And so you want to learn how to, I think when they go hand in hand, like, I've talked about marketing your business before. And it's harder marketing charitable stuff. It really is. But when you put them together, they actually work really well. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I also want to talk about like some of the many mistakes that people have made through doing charity work, because this is going to play into like, I want to kind of move from one world to another, but like share a lot of lessons and insights I got from people that have taught me a lot as far as charitable work goes, and everything that, I've done with Vigor Ground in the last, honestly, 13 years, but really heavily over the last decade with our charity events. But just kind of unpack stuff and, learn from the mistakes, define them, and show like the different strategies that make sense. And so with that said, understand this, that, I'm going to also do, so first of all, I'm going to also do like these applications to life. I've done that before, right? Whenever we share lessons, essentially at the end, ask you guys some questions that you need to answer for yourself. So big idea number one is this, right? Like, if you're in business, if you're going into business, a lot of times we go, I'm going to say for the wrong reasons. We have the right intent, but then it turns into, everybody has that thought, like fast cars and big houses and pretty acquaintances, drugs and partying, which I've done, plenty of as well, kind of trying to figure myself out. They just do not lead to fulfillment and happiness. And so, what to do. So this is kind of like a big idea, like know this and what to do. Well, find a purpose that's worth pursuing and ask yourself, when I die, what do I want to be known for? And then do that, and I'll say this, it's challenging to, like, that's not a weekend thing to figure out. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes people are like, okay, cool, let me sit down for an hour and then figure that shit out. It's like, well, it's, your purpose is forged, it's not found. But I guess that my question for you is the application to life is, have you had this existential conversation with yourself? Like, who are you living for? Like, when you're no longer alive, like, and to make a direct impact on the world, will what you did when you were here matter? And, that's a big question. But these are all the things that led me to developing, because at the beginning it was just like, man, these charity events, they make me feel good, right? Like, let's just do them for a bunch of different stuff. And the more we did them, the more I felt good about it, felt good about giving. And it just kind of developed and developed and developed. And now, now it's like we're zoning in on this purpose of what really I feel like we're here to do. Besides, like I said, look, obviously what Vigor Ground does is help people transform, like, essentially the tagline is, help people transform and change their bodies so they can write a different story to their life. And I truly believe that, and that's special. But at the same time now, it's this applying this mentorship program into the youth, like youth that are going in one direction and helping them go in a different direction. So I want you to write down your macro goals, but don't write them down in a macro way. So, so think of it this way: your business or your profession has a specific way of helping individuals. So write down exactly how many people you want to help, how many lives that you want to change, and to what extent. How will you make the world a better place? Remember, I'm always a big fan of writing stuff out. I was just talking to a guy on the phone today as far as like writing things out, because it becomes real. It becomes clear. So many people do not write shit out. Like, when I say the vision or the macro, and I say, well, how does it look like in an ideal scenario? right? I do a lot of that where I write, I call it Tomorrowland, right? I write out this ideal scenario. What if I close my eyes, what does this look like? You know, and obviously I do it for the gym, and I do it for the different businesses, and I do it for the Vigor Dream scholarships, same thing. And because what that does is it gives you a trajectory and a target and a vision, and, you know, kind of like a North Star. And this allows you to say yes and no a lot more, to, you know the shit that doesn't fall in line with it. Yes, with like, man, yeah, that does fit. That does fit this vision that I have. And you can do it for everything. So I would say make sure that, I'm going to notice you guys, I'm going to turn this, if you hear the sound in the back, it's because Jess is blasting it. So I'm going to turn this down, and hopefully she realizes that it's because we're shooting a podcast. See, this is real time, baby. This is real time. But that's what's really, really important, is to have this, like I said, trajectory that you can look towards. Because most people don't know. And then what happens is something comes up and it seems like an opportunity. And then you're like, yeah, I'll do that. Oh, yeah, I'll do that too. Right? Because there's no clarity. So then of course, you have kind of like this, shiny object syndrome going on. So this brings us to big idea number 2, which is networking. You never know. Put it this way. This is why it's so important, right? You never know when some old acquaintance, friend, or colleague will be able to help you in the future. Now, I'm a big when I read that, you might go like, oh, so am I doing stuff and networking just so somebody can help me out in the future? No, actually, I'm a big believer in The Go-Giver, right? The Go-Giver is one of my favorite books of all time. Always delivering value, being a go-giver, and not expecting anything in return. But what you do have to do and think about is like not burning bridges. And of course, if somebody's a negative influence in your life, let them go. Though for everyone else, at least keep in touch, right? If you do, those connections may come in handy years later, but that's not necessarily the reason why you're doing that. What I mean by that is like, look, you're, because that sounds like, like it's the give and take. I'll do something if they do something back. No, but every single thing that in the last 15 years, I'd say, has been this building relationships, and without expectations of anything, like always delivering value. It's funny, like we just had a Renton High School brought like I think 40 kids by, because one of their professors follows us. He's like, hey, can we come by and check out the gym? They're always asking about it when they walk by, and I just want to kind of bring them in, and you explain what you guys do. Maybe a little bit of career stuff, maybe a little bit about fitness and health and nutrition. I'm like, sure, I love doing stuff like that. These are like 15, 16-year-olds. And, one kid goes like, because the professor says, hey, plus Vigor has an IG account and Luka has an IG account. He's always sharing valuable stuff. And one kid goes like, oh man, so if I follow, will they follow back? And I said, is it worth following you back? I don't know. And so, I went into this spiel about delivering value, right? Delivering value in advance. Always coming with a given hand, not ever having any expectations, building a kind of relational equity obligation, and that's how you create influence and you attract people, right? Versus, and so I went into this, and I promise this connects, right? I went into the spiel. I said, look, like we live in a world where most, people, kids, anyone goes, hey, give me something and then I'll show you what I can do, or like give me something and then I'll do stuff. Whereas rather than like creating value, create an experience and like creating value in advance, and then people are more drawn to do more things with you, whether it's hire you, whether it's bring you on board, whether it's give you more opportunities, whatever it may be. And so this is the same thing with how I look at, I would say, networking in a sense where, and what I mean is by networking in a sense is that you're not, you're not only doing stuff like if you think that you're going to get something in return. Like you're doing stuff because like you're delivering value and you don't care. But guess what? It's going to show up, right? It's going to show up somewhere down the line and maybe right at the time when you need it, right? And this is kind of like that that thought process, like, oh man, like, I needed something to happen and then it did. Now, I don't think that's something to bet on, but what I mean is that like when you have built relationship and you've built a lot of value, then in that scenario, guess what? Like doors open. There's more opportunities always going on. Big idea number 3 is risk management. You got to know this. If you're going to make money, you'll need to risk money. If you're going to earn freedom, you'll have to risk some of your time, right? Remember this. If you want to earn freedom, you're going to have to risk some of your time. If you're going to become a master, you're going to have to lose your ego along the path. And some of that is just like, staying dumb, constantly learning, being curious, because ego will crush you. If, and it's hard to become the best when you're, like I said, your ego fights for being right all the time. So what to do, right? Well, first of all, don't shy away from risk, right? With every decision that you make, ask yourself, is this an investment or an expense? If it's an investment, then don't be shy about shaking things up. Be aggressive when necessary. I see, now look, some people go like, because I've also shared about not being stupid with your money. And obviously that's very, very important. But I think that's what's really important to decipher for yourself is like, is this an investment or is it like just something that you want, right? Want versus need versus, hey, now money, later money. Okay. And the thing is, this comes into play. Like, I'll give you an example with the Vigor Dream program. Okay. Even with the money that we're bringing, that we're currently bringing in for charitable stuff, and we're going to add some new things, we wouldn't be able to cover it. So it's actually going to come out of my pocket, or the Vigor pocket, most likely my pocket. And that's okay, because I'm looking at the investment for what we're going to build. This goes for charitable things or non-charitable things, but this is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't start doing more work, meaningful, purposeful work, right? Because it's like, well, man, like, this is going to cost us time, money, and energy. It's going to be an investment. So, I don't know if I want to go that route. But like, there's such a bigger picture beyond that. Of course, like, you're going to have to risk time. You're going to have to risk money. You're going to have to risk energy to build something meaningful, right? So that's something that you have to just realize and ask like, this is the reason why I said, hey, like, really figuring out what's your, what's that North Star? What's that vision that you're building? Because, if that's what you're doing, guess what? Like, it's going to be worth it and you're investing into it. And there's nothing more like, don't look at the next 3 months and like, oh, if we start this program, are we going to get XYZ back? Man, look at like the impact that it's going to make. Look at the next year. Look at the years, right? Do that versus looking at the short term on that. This brings me to big idea number 4, right? Now, know this when it comes to marketing. And once again, these are very interconnected, right? It becomes very interconnected. People buy with their hearts, not their minds, right? And somebody like Scott Harrison, when it comes to charity water, like, you read the story in Thirst because, it was a lot more difficult. I think people see the success of it now. They're like, oh man, like, it blew up, it did this. But you got to read the struggles that he went through in building this, right? So he wasn't successful at raising money because he marketed the statistics of dirty water, right? That's what a lot of people do. Like, look at how bad this problem is, right? Remember, that's a stat. People don't like move. They're not moved by statistics and logic. They're moved by emotion, right? So he was successful because he told stories that people connected with. And I've shared a lot of stuff about storytelling. And, this goes for, like I said, whether it's something charitable and philanthropic or if it's your business, period, right? You got to get people engaged. So what do you do? Hey, when you're selling a product or an idea, remember, product, service, or even an idea. That's why it's so powerful to be great at sales and storytelling, because even your clients that have already bought from you or invested in you, you have to sometimes like shift their ideas. You have to sell an idea, right? Don't focus on the nuts and bolts or the features and benefits of stuff. People mostly overlook logic. Instead, tell great stories that knight your client to be the hero. And this is, I know that I invest a lot into charity and philanthropic stuff because it's that feeling of being a hero, right? I feel like I contribute. It makes me feel good. And so, on the same end, I said I'm going to kind of gel the two different worlds of, business and philanthropy. And obviously this is how these two work together. And at the end, I'm going to give you guys like these 11 different ways that you can have an evolved enterprise, which I think is the future. It is the future. Big idea number 5 is creativity. So know this, that creativity often comes when the lights are off. What do I mean by that? Well, they think about this. Creativity hides in the nether regions of your subconscious. So you have to quiet down your mind to hear them. That's what I mean. I've talked about like quieting down the mind and creating space. I've talked about that before. So whether that's like using cold showers, like I go to Banya a lot, the Russian bathhouse, baths, whether it's workouts. Workouts have been, a great, actually, you'll see a lot of times in between my workout, I'll be training and I do a hard set, and in between I'm breaking and I'm like, oh shit. And I'll just run and get a pad and start writing down. People are always like, dude, what are you doing? And I'm just like, hey, something just came to me, right? And it's kind of like slid out from my subconscious to it came to my mind because I was able to quiet everything down, and then I got that idea. So, in meditation, quality sleep, moments before bed. So, use those things as slingshots for your creative ideas. Keep a journal close and write down anything your brain tells you. Like I've said this over and over and over again, and I'm going to continue to say it because, like I said, it is such an important part of, keep it handy, because once that thought goes, you might not remember it again, and it's very, very worthwhile to obviously remember things like that. So once again, like creating moments, or should I say, being strategic with creating space for your creativity. And that can also be, I've started doing more of going to certain places that inspire me and working there and having more of a creative space to do that. So, those are just, I would say, things that are some things that you can do to get more creative inside of, I would say, your business and your philanthropic ventures. Okay. From here, here's another big idea. Radical transparency. This is very, very difficult for a lot of businesses, period. And know this, so think about when I would say even for Vigor Ground, but here's the example of Scott's example with Charity Water is that when it had a failure and trying to, instead of trying to fix it quickly or hide the problem, they wrote an email and their donors with a title, "We wrecked your well." So if you guys know, they do wells, right? Like that's what they build wells. They're 100%, actually, 100% of donations go to their cause. So they have a separate funding for the people that run the organization. But being radically transparent is massive, because most people actually don't, they don't expect it. So don't try to cover up your problems, right? Share your losses with your friends and your clients, and they'll appreciate you more for your honesty. And I would say, how much of that are you doing in your business? Sharing your losses. I mean, I try to share losses here pretty often, just to give insight that there's a lot of shit that goes wrong. There's a lot of stuff that fails. There's a lot of, frustration, or you put a lot of time and effort and it doesn't go the way that you want it to. I think that it makes business more real. Like I said, whether it's sharing it on the side of, perfect example, I've shared a number of times, we were going to launch, the Vigor Dream Project by, in March. Now it's because of the summer, we're not going to do it till September, because we ran into a bunch of issues, and some of it was me dropping the ball on timelines, which, I hate, but it's a lot of my plate. And I share those things because not everything goes according to plan. So those are just things that I would highly and strongly suggest that this is just a great, I would say, strategy. I would say fuck strategy. I say strategy. It's just a way of being. It's just your values, right? But I think that most people try to keep stuff like that hidden, meaning, let me share the good stuff, but let me not share all of the other stuff, right? So from here, synchronicity. So knowing this is, I shared this a little bit earlier, but most people don't know that Charity Water was about to go under, right? Due to a lack of funds. And then he got $1 million check, right? And what's the moral of the story? Well, good things happen to good people. But let's loop it back to that go-giver mentality that I talked about earlier, right? So without having to believe in karma or efficacy or prayer, it's still true that you attract what you focus on, right? So even in the darkest of times, believe that you'll make it out on top. Like, so the part of this is belief, right? And I talk about this a lot. Belief drives behavior. The other part is like values, right? And what I mean by values is if you are a go-giver and it's like, this is the way that you live your life, guess what? Like it ends up somewhere down the line, it ends up coming back. And I've had this happen a number of times, right? Where like you feel like you're in the shitter and stuff is challenging, and you know somebody comes through or something comes through, right? There's always, and then that happens with, like I said, synchronicity, being a go-giver, living within integrity and living within your values, and then those good things happen. Okay. Another big idea. VIPs. So this will sound like a little harsh, okay? But I think that you'll kind of get my frame here. So not everyone is as important. Like, you got to know this. Not everyone is as important as everybody else. Therefore, it's okay not to spread yourself too thin trying to appease everybody. I've learned this the hard way, okay? Because once again, you start going like, well, no, everybody matters, and like I want to make sure that I'm great to everybody. But man, like you only have 24 hours in a day, so many things to do. And like, who are the most important people, right? So you got to democrate the people who are actively important to your personal, business, and spiritual life, and then relentlessly like nurse and nurture those relationships. So think about this, okay? I'm going to repeat this because when you think about it this way and you say, okay, cool, who are the people that are most important in your personal, business, and spiritual life, and then relentlessly nurture those and put more time and energy into those than spreading yourself thinner across more people, okay? I think that's much more important. And even though that sounds like kind of like, oh man, VIP, this, that, the other, right? Because remember, if you're spending too much time with too many people, you're probably neglecting a few of those who matter the most. So you got to really ask yourself, you know, what matters and who matters. And over time, like you're not really going to, you know, I would say, care so much for giving more time and energy to, you know, so many different people that didn't matter as much. And like, you know what, I'm going to bring up this example that I get a little emotional even talking about it, but you know, I started realizing like, so I'm going home in about a week, and like this year I'm making more trips back home to Slovenia, and people say, oh, why are you doing that? You know, I'm like, well, my parents are doing that great, and so I wanted to make sure I see more of them. Like, and this is a perfect example of personal, right? What's the personal relationship I want to invest more time in? Well, check. Like, I've been home about 1.5 times a year in the last 13 to 15 years, right? Something like that, maybe 2 at most. And when I see my parents, you know, I see them, but I don't see them every day, right? Like usually we're hosting events, we're doing some work with the Vigor Gym there. I might be going on a trip, meaning I'm not staying in just Ljubljana. And so I started calculating the amount of days that I see them. And I'm like, man, I see my parents maybe 4 to 5 days where we're doing something together every year, at best a week, sometimes less, sometimes more, sometimes less. But I would say average probably like 5 days maybe, right? And absolutely, like that's, certainly on me. But you start giving perspective to that and you go like, holy shit, if my parents are alive, another 10 years, 12 years, whatever it may be, you start going like, does that mean that in the rest of their life, I'm going to see them for another 50 days? Right. And it's like, it gives so much perspective to something like that. And it makes you go like, oh shit. Okay. Now I use this example, even though it's not related to business or anything else, but it's like, man, what matters more? Like the only thing that we have is time. And so you got to look at like, man, where are you spending your time and energy and the people you're spending it with, both on those fronts. And it could be, like I said, relationship, like your personal relationships, health, business. It could be, like I said, spiritual, but man, put more time and energy into the things that matter the most. In business, VIPs, very important people. And it's like, it can sound like a ad thing, but man, like spend more time with the people that matter. And that might be, that might be your team. That might be the leadership team. It might be all your coaches. It might be your most important collaborations and partners, and like, how can you do more stuff together that's going to help everybody win? That brings us to big idea number 9, leadership, which is something I obviously, I'm big about. And and very, very invested in. I feel like no matter, as I keep getting better and better and better at leadership, I keep realizing how much I don't know, and which is a good thing. But just know this, that leaders or a CEO's role is to set the vision for the company. Keeping the lights on and focusing on tomorrow. And CEO's job is consequently not to get bogged down in the day-to-day grind of executing the business. And this is a big thing of, obviously, that I'm moving away from and doing the things that I'm the best at, and letting go of some of the day-to-day stuff. And I can tell you right off the bat, like when you're starting when you're a small business and you're coaching and you start in a garage, or you're just coaching clients out of another gym, and then you build it, and whatever business that it is, like you're going to usually be doing all of that day to day, the vision, the strategy, the marketing, all of it. But you want to go to a place where you don't sweat the small stuff, right? But to be able to do that, you'll have to hire a team around you. You can execute professionally without you babysitting. So make sure that you hire well. And we talked about hiring before, and like I'm sure we could do another podcast on just things like that. But hey, like when you like to work, I'll say this right off the bat, right? To work on the bigger picture stuff and be the visionary and create those types of targets, like you can't be bogged down by the smaller stuff too much, right? Like I said, as the vision gets bigger, like you have to free up your time to work on that. Otherwise, you're going to zone out. And that's, to be honest with you, like a lot of the business owners, especially gym owners that I talk to, like they seem to be, and like I say, they seem to be like, hey, I was in that position too, where you're dealing with so many different things that it's hard to think about things like charity and philanthropy and like what's the bigger impact that you can make in your community and things of that nature. Which brings me to the big idea number 10, which is keeping perspective, right? So know that the next time that you fail, right, and it will be inevitable, right? It will be inevitable. List out the 5 things that you're grateful for, right? Pay attention to what you have accomplished and how you've helped rather than how you didn't quite reach your goal. Because at the end of the day, like it's really easy. I mean, I guess like having an existential crisis like is almost like something that almost every business owner goes through. And so it's important that you keep reminding yourself of that, right? And so if nothing else, remember this. Happiness often comes from giving rather than receiving. So no matter your current situation, find a way to start giving back. And if you're doing it, give back more. Think bigger on this, right? People are captivated by stories and a sense of community, right? And some, a charity like Charity Water, which is really successful, by the way, has succeeded not because, they created some new technology. It succeeded because of world-class storytelling. Same goes for the charity that you support. Same goes for your business. Same goes for the gelling of the two, okay? And remember that successful people are obsessed with pivoting, right? And, me, whether it's Scott Harrison, whether it's Elon Musk, whether it's, any small, big, medium-sized business owner that has been successful, you have to, you could have given up a ton of times, but you have to be able to pivot, right? And you change, you make the pivot by changing your actions and perspectives, especially in the dark times, right? You can't do the same stuff and get through. Like you have to change your perspective and you have to change your actions. And so with that said, here's like, because a lot of people will say, well, how do I, okay, you have this Vigor Dream scholarship now that that you've built and that you're going to launch. Like, what are some ways to kind of bake in, right? So think of it, baking in meaningful impact into every sale that you make and create an authentic competitive advantage by catalyzing a community of diehard fans, which in your case, if it's a gym, it's like obviously your clients, who will enthusiastically spread the brand. So obviously my goal is to enthusiastically spread this idea of the Vigor Dream and grow it and so on and so forth. But there's different models, and some of them you've probably heard, some of them maybe not so much, right? Which is these impact models. Of course, like what is one of the most famous ones is Tom's, and I've shared Tom's before, but so impact model number 1 is buy one, give one, right? Every time somebody buys one item from you, you give one to someone else. Example is Tom's Shoes. Warby Parker did that too. So remember that they've given away, Tom's has given away over 35, now it's even more, but 35 million pairs of shoes around the world, right? So this could be, I mean, look, I'm just going to give you some examples, but it could be like, hey, in certain scenarios, like somebody gets a membership and you give one away to somebody in need. And maybe that's not a 1-for-1, but like that's something that you could think about doing. So I'm going to be specific to the gym business here, okay? Impact model number 2 is direct impact. Every time someone buys from you, you create a specific impact. Example, Feed. So if you go to feedprojects.com, whenever you buy a product from Feed, they provide a certain number of meals to poor children around the world. It could be 35, 50, or even 185 meals, depending on the product that you buy. So that could be something that you connect with locally to do. And so like I said, I like to keep things local. As a small business, you want to be entrenched in the local community. I think that's how you can make the most impact. But like, hey, whatever your heart sings on this and like whatever it leads you, that's great. Impact model number 3 is percentage of dollar amount. I'm going to tell you guys how we're going to use a number of these, but the model number 3 is one of them that we're definitely going to do. So every time someone buys from you, you donate either a percentage of the sale or a fixed dollar amount to a charity cause. So as we launch, I would say Vigor Dream, like every new membership, that's a 3 or 12-month membership, we're taking a piece of that first month and we're giving it towards that scholarship fund. So you can look at an example is Sevenly, SEVENLY.org. When you buy one of Sevenly's featured shirts, they give 7% to their cause of the week. Sevenly's been growing so rapidly that they donated over $4 million to charity in just 3.5 years. So obviously a phenomenal model. And like I'm a big fan of studying these charity models. Remember, these are also successful businesses. And I shared it at the beginning that it's even harder to create a charitable, a successful charity business. So even more, I would go to Charity Water, honestly, and like look at their landing page, look at how they do stuff. They do a lot of stuff right. I've studied them for marketing based on StoryBrand. Impact model 4A is give what you want. So you let your customers choose how much to give. If you go to Humble Bundle, so an example is humblebundle.com, lets you choose how much to pay for their video game bundle. So you can also choose how much of your payment goes to charity. I'm not even like going to release this. This is like part of my business coaching we're doing, but like a new, transformation challenge model that we're going to be running is actually connected to this impact model. Give what you want. Can't share it all yet. So impact model 4B is the same thing. You let your customer choose which cause to support based on which product they buy. Example, project7.com. So if you go to project7.com, depending on which flavor of gum, gummies, or mints you buy, Project 7 will donate towards one of the 7 different causes they've chosen. These 7 causes based on where they see the most need in the world, but in the end, it's up to you to choose which one you support. So there's autonomy, there's choice. Like you get a choice to do it, to give to whoever you want to give, which is powerful from a self-determination theory standpoint. Impact model number 5 is all in. You give away all profits to charities aligned with your values. This does not mean that you don't pay everyone on your team or cover the expenses. You need to keep growing. So example is Newman's Own, newmansown.com, co-founded in 1982 by famous actor Paul Newman. This company has grown into a mega food empire, in part thanks to their commitment to give all their profits to charity. So they've given over $450 million to thousands of charities since they were founded. Very, very inspirational. Part of the all-in model. So our all-in model is for the charity boot camps that we do on Saturdays, because the money from that does go towards whatever charities we were donating to, but now it's going to go towards the Vigor Dream Foundation. So impact model number 6 is source matters. So you source your materials in a way that's better for the environment. Now, maybe that doesn't relate to you. Maybe it does. Like FitBar actually does a lot of that. Where now we have everything's recyclable. We have coconut bowls to eat in-house, specific materials that they'll use that to create the smallest footprint from disposal waste goes. Icebreaker.com sells clothing made from merino wool. By the way, merino wool, my brother loves it. Some of the most comfortable like fabric on the planet. I mean, like literally, it's like somebody's massaging your skin at all times. Pretty pricey too, but so icebreaker.com sells clothing made from merino wool sourced from humanely treated sheep. Every piece of clothing has a BAHA code. That's exactly what it is. I love that shit. That lets you trace it back to the sheep it came from and check on the sheep's living conditions, which I think is super cool. And obviously, like, this connects. But I want you to see how that connects to people, right? Because people that are obviously against animal cruelty, which I feel like we all should be, damn it. But in this case, it makes you feel more connected to that company. Impact model number 7 is experience the good. You provide experiences that create an impact. Charity Buzz, love them. Like, so you got to check out charitybuzz.com. Auctions off experiences like having a dinner with Apollo astronaut, touring the set of your favorite TV show, and tons more. They give 80% to charity, and they've raised over $100 million for charity in 10 years. I mean, think about like how cool, there's so much shit that you could do in, like I said, in local business with these impact models. So I hope that you get some ideas as I'm sharing this, and I hope you go to the sites that I'm sharing because, how could you do something to raise money and then buy that experience for one of your clients? So there's another way you could do stuff. Impact model number 8 is empowered employment. So use your business to provide jobs for undeserved communities. Ultra Testing, so ultratesting.us, delivers high-quality software testing by employing people with autism spectrum disorders. Autistics tend to struggle in most work environments, but their tendency towards repetitive behavior makes them perfect for performing extensive testing without losing focus. So that's another great thing. You guys will see that like part of the Vigor Dream program is, taking these kids through, I would say, these 8-week programs. But then the next step would be going into internship, right? If they're loving coaching, if they're loving what they see through, I would say, strength, fitness, and performance, and the accountability and the mentorship that we do, like that next step would be going through internship and then possibly into coaching. So that's one of the models that I've been working on developing, right? So actually creating a path. Impact model number 9 is co-development. So you directly connect the producers and buyers to create a better experience for everybody involved. Good Eggs, goodeggs.com, allows you to order online directly from farmers and food makers. This reduces waste and spoilage since the producers make just the right amount and ship it directly to you and get the freshest produce possible. There's more and more of that stuff going around. And, maybe this is something that doesn't kind of relate to you directly, but hopefully it gives you some ideas of how you could connect to either some charities or do something of your own that's like that. Impact model number 10 is ethical opportunity. So you create a way for your customers to earn life-changing income by serving. Example, Living Goods, livinggoods.org, franchises its brands and business model to women entrepreneurs in impoverished third world countries and provides them with a microloan, an initial setup of an inventory of business tools to get started, and which I think is phenomenal. And, I always like to kind of bring this up because somebody might go like, well, that doesn't go for me. Well, you could be raising money and like donating it to local businesses and like I said, helping give loans to small businesses that just can't afford it. And but like I said, once again, keeping it local for people that just don't have those opportunities. I just want you to, I'm sharing these because I really want you to think and be creative. And, we started with one of those big ideas was being creative. And so I wanted to share these models with you because they're really inspiring to me. And like I said, I met some of the people that actually run these companies when I went to Necker Island. And I was invited as part of winning the Evolved Enterprise. It was a challenge, and the Vigor Ground business model won that, and I ended up going on Necker Island and meeting Richard Branson, spending time with a lot of incredible people that run these Evolved Enterprises. So it was really inspiring. And so the last one of these impact models is the ecosystem. So you build an interwoven community of businesses that support each other and exponentially amplify their impact. Example is Zingerman's. And I just want to say, like, the Zingerman's have been a huge influence on me. I got all their books, got all their stuff, all their courses. I haven't flown out yet. Actually, I had to cancel one time because let's just say that some family emergency got in the way. But what they've done is Zingerman's, and if you go to zingermans.com, zingermans.com, is an ecosystem of 10 interconnected businesses that sell to each other to create a built-in customer base. They also share resources for IT, human resources, PR, marketing, payroll, and more. So they became a famous deli in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and then it became they went laterally with a bakery, and they went laterally with a cafe, and they went laterally with all these different businesses. But they share the same business model, the customer service model. A lot of these shared, I would say, resources, and essentially, that's part of what my vision is what we're building here. While some companies are partnerships and some companies all fall under Vigor Ground. So our recovery room cryo chamber is going to be under Vigor Ground. We have a partnership with physical therapy with Dan Swinsko. We have a partnership with Fit Bar Cafe. But now, like I said, my goal, and I've been vocal about this goal, is, buying more real estate and creating restaurants, whether they're partnerships or it's under our umbrella, co-working spaces, spas, like all these different things that are an ecosystem that all help people transform and change their lives. And I honestly believe that like this is something everybody should strive to do. But these impact models, first of all, like maybe one of them resonates with you more. Also, I would say maybe you can do a number, because like I said, we're doing 3 to 4 of these different models in different ways in our business, and pushing even more so towards, I would say, towards that route. So with that said, hopefully this was enlightening, and it gave you some insight and ideas and of not only, I would say, how to be better at pushing your business, but integrating charity within your business, and like 11 different impact models that you could use. Because I promise you this, if anybody's been on business for a while, what starts happening is, I was on a call with somebody from the UK, Scotland today, and that was our conversations, like what's next. Businesses that are actually, they're doing good, and it's like, what's next? And this conversation spurs this, like, man, like how can you give back more and do more? And the thing is, it's going to help your business. Like, I mean, this is something I talk for about another hour on, our charity model, our charity bootcamp model. Like I said, we do it every Saturday. We've done it for 11 years, 10 plus years. And, it generates leads that get to experience us while we are able to give back. So this is something that, like I said, one of my presentations is going to go dig deeper and dive deeper into this at the Vigor Ground Fitness and Business Summit. Once again, like literally as we're sitting here, we had a couple more signups, and I mean, it is off the chain right now. And so like take advantage of that, please. I promise you every single presentation will give you 10x the investment of $397. I mean, like, some of the best of the best. Jason Ferrugia, Joel Jameson, Martin Rooney, Eric Cressy, John Berardi, Mark Fisher, Sean Stevenson, AJ Roberts, Ben Bruno, Kelsey Heenan, Alan Cosgrove. I mean, and I'm sure Adam Bornstein. We just confirmed Adam Bornstein teaching how to build a multiple 6 or 7 figure business in online coaching. I mean, he's ran Tim Ferriss's business. Like I said, this is it, guys. This is going to be one of the greatest events. So make sure you sign up. Go to vigorgroundsummit.com/home. Do not wait. And as always, love your feedback, love your questions. And, as always, we love reviews, honest reviews. It's how we get to spread the word. How we get to continue to do podcasts. And I always said, I'm doing this podcast as an extension of everything else that we're doing. We haven't, up until this point in time, we just started talking to some people that might be a fit for sponsorships. I've never even thought that route, because all I care about is producing more quality content and giving you guys more, I would say, value and relational equity and insights into my thought process and the things that I learned. So with that, like, look, I appreciate your time. I really love it when, like I said, you're spending time with me here, listening to me. I'm very, very grateful for that. So thank you for that. And I will see you in the next episode of the Vigor Life Podcast. Love and appreciate you guys. Peace.